Okay, back to work on this today. So Joe left out the little screw here because his retainer was broken. That goes into the case that separates the two gear case, the flywheel cavity from the primary. And if you don't fill that hole up with something, it's just going to blow oil back and forth and cause problems in the primary. Because the primary is an open hole that has no return flow, so it needs to be plugged up. So we can go ahead and blow this out real quick. He says this all comes out without pulling this, so let's find out. We'll know in a minute. So 9/16 there, and 1.5 inches. Like that, right there. Big ass zip gun. All right. Okay, so it doesn't go over the top of this, which I didn't think it did. He was able to get it over here, he said. Wiggle around just enough. This came out just enough to disengage from the crank, so it came out. Okay. Chain it out of the way. Okay, now we have access to get the rotor out. So we got a special rotor tool right here. These grooves pop into the rotor right here. This is a big spring. Comes right out. Except then this one doesn't spring enough. And the rotor's too thick to go in there. And more likely it's hitting on the field coil behind it. Yep. So it's hitting on the field coil behind, not letting it go in the way. So instead of forcing it, we are going to turn the motor over a little bit. If we can get in there with my tool, which looks like we're not going to be able to get in here with this. It doesn't fit very well. Okay. Fancy tools don't work. Use less fancy tools. Called breaker bar, socket, and nut. It will be turned over in a minute. Okay, move it just a little bit, see if that's enough. Because now the nut's in the way. This tool's not springy enough. I'll spring it some more. Yeah, got spring tension on it now. There. Now it works like it's supposed to. This comes right out. Alright. Oh, look at that. Ain't that sweet. So now, you can see how there's a hole right there. Now, does that hole go all the way through or not? That is the question. Either way, it's not being properly retained. And that is sitting up on top of the wire harness in there, which puts it out further than it should be, so it might even hit on the rotor anyway. So as this is spinning, this could be rubbing on that anyway and cause a problem, because it's not recessed all the way in. Let's see if the air goes through. Take a fine air nozzle tip. Stick it on top of that little hole. Hear that? Goes all the way through. Hear that? So that would have been an oil leak. Just like I told him would be. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and pull this out. Hopefully there's enough room to do everything we need. Okay, the screw went someplace where I can't see it. There it is down there. So there's the piece that's broken off. There's the new piece. Okay, so I got two new screws. Well, we have the old screws that fit. See if there's any difference. They look like the same thing. If I dropped it enough times, will I lose it? Probably. Appears to be the same thing. These are a little bit flatter head. This is a flat head, this is a dome head. See the difference? So this gives us a little more clearance. We'll go ahead and use this one. So these look like they go in tightly. Go until they just stick out the other side. Okay. Put that back in there so we don't lose it. Alright, so now if you look in there, you can see how this harness in here is recessed in here. See my screwdriver's on the edge there, that shoulder. So this should be in there right up against that. Now if it's got too far out, then you got to beat this back a little bit and see it's got this out pretty far. So that might have to go back just a tick. My guess is it does. So we're going to use a fixing tool right here, if we can get it in here. Doesn't look like we'll be able to move that very easy. Nope. Doesn't appear to want to move. Get that glued in there with some sealer maybe. I don't know what he did. Alright, we're going to see if it's going to work. If it don't work, we're going to have to break it free and move it anyway. Okay, so it's hard to get in here. So how are we going to get all the way in there with this big ass thing? My fingers aren't that deep. So that makes it a little more difficult to do this job. Let's see. Take my screwdriver, use that a little bit, and we're interrupted. We'll be back. Alright, we're back. Okay, so I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get this way up in there. Yeah. It's gonna be fun. One time I actually would like to have a magnetic screwdriver, but I hate magnetic screw tools, so that's why nothing I have is magnetic. This application would actually help you on that. But there's too many negatives to having magnetic tools to do that. So let's see, maybe we can do it with a needle nose pliers, might do the trick. What's those fancy needle nose pliers I got? Okay, let's try these out. I got these fancy Krypnix tools here they sent me. Maybe I can go like this maybe. Get it up in there and it'll stay. Probe it in there with that, see if it'll stay put. Stick it in there. Put a big screwdriver against it to hold it. Pull that out. Come back in with the Phillips. Try to find the sweet spot, which I don't feel anywhere. must have started because it's in there. So I got the top screws, probably got one turn holding it or something. So now I'm going to do the bottom screw and try to get this started with the bottom. Probably, hopefully, let's go to the top another. Put another turn on that just in case. Let's go down the bottom. Nope, that was not in. It was just sitting there. See, the screws are tight in the plastic, so it makes it hard to do anything. Probably got to go modify this piece of plastic. Looks like it went in. Let's try this again. Screwdriver doesn't really fit in these screws very well. Get some tension on that one. Tension on that one. Again. There, all right. I think it's in there all the way. Let's make sure it's tight. I'm putting a screwdriver and trying to slide it out. Appears to be in there good and tight. So there you go. Looks good. And interrupted again. We'll be back. Okay, back again. Keeping interrupted. Okay, I'm gonna put it back together again. We got the screw in there, retainer in there tight. Probably wouldn't hurt to double check his torque. What are those Allens? Look like they're Allens. Okay, let's make sure we got some torque on those. Oh yeah, they're tight. Well, it's got good Loctite on there. They're definitely not moving very well. Alright, they appear to be tight. Good. Okay, we got our fancy tool here. Put this back up in there. Now this is the heavy duty rotor. She has a built-in washer in it. In here, so running separate washers, and if you can tell, the spline in here is nice and thick, so it doesn't twist out. So if you have the regular Harley rotor in there, the cheapy one, yeah, tripod sucks. These are your two washers right here that would be in there normally. So the inner washer is 90 thou thick, the outer one's about 200 or a 1/4 inch. I think it's like 230. Okay, see that one goes right there. See how it's built up? And then this one over here is the same thickness as what's in here. This goes back to the way they did it back in the 70s. These cheap rotors came out in 1981. Or not this one, but the ones that were cheap. They were the thickness of the steel bill right here. About 3/16 thick. So they would twist out all the time in the splines. So this is the upgraded version. Made like an old one, and they encapsulate the magnets in a stainless steel band, which supposedly doesn't make it hurt anything. I don't know why not, but that's what they claim. And that way the magnets don't fall out, come loose, because they're just glued in anyway. So there you go. That's the difference between a heavy duty and a standard. Alright, let's see what happens here. Normally this tries to take your fingers off, but let's see, this will take my, I gotta be careful about the coils in there also, because this is gonna push it right up against the coils in there too. If you screw up the coil, the wires in there, it'll make the alternator not work. So try not to damage those. Alright, so that worked. I'm gonna put this back on. more interruptions. And I'm thinking today is going to be interruption day. You know, for being a Sunday, it's pretty damn busy. Alright, back again. Okay, got that in there. Just going to get this bolt up in there. It's a stove bolt, so you got to get it back there where it belongs to hold it. Hold it with your finger. Hold that up. Put the nut on there in the washer. That'll work for now. Okay. Change that out. Okay. Airline. No Loctite needed on these. As long as you tighten them down, you don't need Loctite. You know, when the socket only goes about this speed on rotation, you're tight. At least on my zip gun. Your zip gun may vary. Okay, now change out zip guns to this one. Okay, put it up there all the way up. Engaging the splines on the back side there. Don't know if you can see in there, but you check your clearance. See how tight that is. Pull your bolt out a little bit so it bites in. Make sure the bolt engaged back there. I'm not sure if it did. It's in. Okay, this is our tight position. Okay, this one here is minimum clearance. So that's runnable like that. Now, these are supposed to get tighter when they warm up, so when it gets tighter, it'll be a lot tighter than this. So some bikes like being tight, some like being loose. Most of these bikes have a pretty loose chain in them these days. So to me, that's a good spot right there. Now if you make it a little looser, there's where we're at. Go down one notch. See how much looser it is. So that's nice and loose. So the looser it is, the more horsepower you'll get through the system, less drag. As long as it doesn't hit on anything, you're alright. Now these bikes have a lot of clearance all the way around everything, so it doesn't hit on anything. So being loose is actually a good thing. You will get a little more chain snatch back and forth, at least when you're for lugging speed. But if you're in normal driving conditions, it's not a problem. So there you go. So we're nice and loose. So we might tighten it up later. We'll see. If it doesn't like how it feels, we'll come back and tighten it. You know how this makes noise back here because it's dry. You hear all that. So that's about the limit I like being on loose also. So we're kind of right in the middle. If it's a little bit looser, I'd adjust it. It's a little bit tighter, I wouldn't run it here. So it's kind of in the middle. This is a used chain, so it is what it is. It also doesn't hurt to run around, turn it and see if it changes. This might be the tight spot, this might be the loose spot, you don't know. So if you turn the motor over and find out, then you'll know. Appears to be about the same. Got a lot of clearance in my finger there. See, my finger's got a lot of clearance. See, that's enough clearance right there in your finger on that spot. So you got two fingers in there almost. So it feels about the tightest spots right there. Alright, so you gotta make a decision. You want them on loose or tight. So this one's definitely loose. It's thicker than my thumb. So my thumb's pretty thick. So yeah, it's got quite a bit of clearance. Like I said, 1 notch up is quite a bit. That's assuming I didn't go down 2 notches. So for me, it's a little on the looser side I really want, but if we go up 1 position, see how it's tight. See, this was tighter than it was before because this is the tight spot of the chain. See how almost no clearance here? So that's too tight. So go down 1 notch. So we're still tight. 1 position. And we're back loose again. So see, we're loose or tight, we're going to run it loose. Alright, so there you go. That's good. You want to check your torque here, see what torque you really got on it. It's tight. Okay, so that's all back together again. So now it's ready for the primer to go on there, I'm guessing. But I'm going to be doing some more work on this bike, so I'm going to leave it open. Because right now I got access to turn the motor over, which is hard to do. Otherwise you got to jack the rear end up, put it in gear, and you got to rotate that rear wheel to turn the motor over, which is a pain in the butt. Right now we have access with this. Makes it a lot easier. Alright, so that's it for now on that one.